All right, it's about that time. Thank you, everybody, for joining us in a championship week edition of the Coach Lou Weekly Press Conference. Coach, you had a couple of 48 hours or so to kind of digest everything. Just some final thoughts about the big win on Saturday.
I mean, obviously, special moment for our kids. I mean, kind of written like a movie script, right? To where that thing comes down to overtime, snow's falling. You know, your 6-year senior quarterback caps it with the win, and then you bounce back and kind of in poetic fashion. The defense is the one with a huge goal line stand at the end of regulation and a big, obvious 2-point conversion denial there. Special moment for the kids. What they worked so hard for, they capitalized it, they seized it, really showed the true character of who our team is. And as great as that was, like we talked about yesterday, now we got to have the ability to refocus, lock back into our process, and know that the job's not done and there's one more to go get. So didn't come this far just to get this far, and now we got to go up to Detroit, handle our business the right way, and play a very, very good Northern Illinois team. It's always a unique deal when you get to play a team 2 times in the same season. We know each other intimately. Obviously, it was a very entertaining and highly contested game. Last time we played, and know it's going to be that again. Coach Hammock, his staff, his kids play the game the right way. It's going to be a great game on Saturday, and really excited for both of our universities to be showcased and to go compete.
Well, let's open up for some questions. Kind of put a bow on last Saturday. We'll start with the OG himself, Alan Moth.
Yeah, Coach. I mean, that game had to be a blur for you. It was for me, and I'm not coaching. So when you got a chance to kind of go back and watch film, what did you notice maybe that you didn't notice while that everything was going on?
I mean, I noticed it while it was happening, obviously, because it had such a big impact in the game. But our defense, particularly in the red zone, was unbelievable. For the very first time they go out and take the field, the tremendous interception by 82 for Miami of Ohio, and they go and take the field, and our defense takes the field for the first time, in deep in the red zone, for them to bow up and that sudden change and hold them only to a field goal there. And then, as I just mentioned, the last possession of regulation to where I believe they had first and goal on the +6 with like 50 seconds to go, all 3 timeouts. And you kind of get to that spot, and, the way that we managed it and everything with the clock, it's like it's on them, and you got to trust them. And, they're going to be accountable to the family and accountable to one another. And they rose to the occasion. I mean, there's some tremendous extra effort plays that, again, the defense the last couple of weeks is just playing with that fanatical effort and flying to the ball. And even when they're wrong, they're playing with such confidence and playing together that they're making each other right. So those big red zone stops, limiting those possessions just to field goals were everything. And then the attitude and the demeanor of our guys up front. I mean, I know we spent some time, talking about the O-line, and we can continue to gush about them, but I think what gets lost in the shuffle is the impact that both of our tight ends, Chris Leach and Aaron Hackett, have made over the course of this season. They don't have the sexy stat line, but what we're able to do running the football is because of the attitude and the physicality that they bring as well. And I mean, the nastiness, and I say that with a ton of love and respect, that the nastiness and the demeanor that they played the game with on Saturday to allow us to rush the ball for 303 yards was everything. I mean, that those are the big things that really jumped out. That, again, on a when you're managing the game and you're in the moment, you're aware of it, but you go back and you watch the tape, and just what a huge impact those moments had in the game, and that those players had, for the results, for us to earn the outcome that we got.
The Montre Miller play to end it. I've watched that several times. What are your thoughts when you actually got to see everything that he did in that play to make that happen?
I tell you what, I think he was honored. If I'm not mistaken, Dan, he's going to be the defensive player of the week this week. And we recognized him yesterday for his efforts as well. We knew it was going to be one of those games where our corners were going to be tested, and they were, and, gave up some plays, got some calls against them that were good. I mean, it's the nature of that position, right? But they were, both him and Elvis, just resilient. And again, our core belief of toughness to go harder, longer, regardless of the circumstance. I thought he embodied that, and again, like his character, what he's been through to show up and make that play and to have great technique and compete to finish and get that ball to the ground. And then, again, we talk about the character of the team that showed out. Winning's fun, and obviously him running across and, dapping up the ref. I had no idea that even happened until it was about 7 or 8 o'clock at night, and that replay kind of showed up on social media or timeline and everything, and got a good chuckle out of that. But again, it just shows how much these kids put into it. and the joy that they have in playing that hopefully comes across as you watch our brand of football and you watch our kids compete and, this great flash fast culture that they have created that, you see that they're having fun, and we talked about that from day one, that we're going to have fun. And obviously there's a lot of work that goes into it, but man, winning's fun. And that was a special moment for him and for the team.
Can you talk about Xavier a little bit? I was kind of thinking, in the biggest games you guys have had, he has really had some huge games. Going back to Buffalo in 2019 in the fourth quarter, he had, 100 yards the first time you guys played Northern Illinois, and obviously what he was able to do on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, it's really a testament to, his development over his whole time here. He's a dual sport athlete here. And, there was times in the past, he'd be the first to admit, where maybe in the off season of football, he spent a little bit of time on track and that kind of took away from his growth and development as a football player. He really committed to, being football first this off season and really invested in everything so that it's no surprise that within these moments on the big stages, he's trained and he's prepared and he shows up. And again, kind of like we talked about after the game, both and Coop, they have obviously they lean into their physical gifts. I mean, shoot, X on his GPS device hit 21.5 miles per hour on one of those long runs. I mean, that is rolling for a human being now. And so he picked his parents the right way and he can boogie, but his growth in terms of the details of the position of being a running back and knowing where he needs to be. And again, some of those runs, you go back and you look at him like they're not block perfect, but he's where he needs to be and trusting, the integrity of the play. And it ends up, he's having great results with it. And again, that's his growth. That's his work. That's the leadership of Coach Johnson in that room. And, he's trained for those moments. And it's the reason why he's a single digit guy, right? He earned that. And we need our big time players to show up in big time games, because that's who we're building the plans around.
One more on him, just real quick. You've mentioned all the time how well they support each other, him and Cooper. Obviously, that's not always going to be the case, especially with running backs. Everybody wants 30, 40 carries a game, and how, the guy that's older maybe would be even harder for him to handle that. But obviously, he's handled it very well.
Yeah, he really has, and again, I think it's, as you said, I agree with you. I think the average common response is that for any offensive skill guy, particularly running backs, right? Like, they want the lion's share of the work. But again, it just shows the strength and the character of our young men, not only in that running back room, but with the wide receivers and the tight ends and everyone, to where as long as we're winning, they really don't care who gets the credit. Like after that school down the road game, we only threw the ball a handful of times. You didn't hear a single wide receiver, moaning or groaning about anything because we got the win, we got the wheel. Life's good, and we kept it pushing, and X is that same way individually that, he knows we got talent in that room and he knows that he's a part of it. He knows that he's a part of the plan. And again, when you have individuals that are your best players buying into an unselfish nature and an unselfish culture, I mean, that's all that you can ask for.
Let's move things along to Jack Burney as we kind of wrap up last Saturday's big win.
Yeah, Coach, one thing I didn't get to ask you Saturday, a lot of milestones happened. Marquez Cooper got to 1,000 yards in the season. Dante Cephas got to 1,000 yards in the season. Just talk about their contributions to the team this year and how cool it is to see those milestones for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. Obviously, those benchmarks hadn't been hit in a long time. I don't know exactly what the years are on all those milestones, but it's great when you have individuals that are reaching those benchmarks and where young men are getting rewarded because of the work that they put in. But those individual stats are the culmination of all the hard work of everyone, right? The numerous different people that have played up front to protect Crumbs, that those throws can happen or open the rushing lanes and everything else like that. So it's great for individuals to reach those accolades. And it's just always funny to me how you look back and you look at those individual accolades that always kind of happen when you have really good teams, and we got a really good team. So there's individuals that are getting some great recognition because of that. And, hopefully becomes commonplace year in and year out with what we've been able to sustain, what we've been able to build, and with the talent we're going to be able to continue to bring in.
Last one on Saturday's game, Keyshawn Abram had a pretty big game, over 100 yards. It seems like every week there's a different go-to receiver for Dustin, and it's really cool to see different receivers stepping up week in and week out. Just talk a little bit about the receivers room and about Keyshawn's performance on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, Keyshawn's been really, really steady. He obviously kind of made a splash in that Iowa game and kind of burst on the scene, so to speak. That was one of, his better games. I think he got a whole lot of confidence from that. And we knew going into that game that it was kind of going to be a bend but don't break. And Miami did a really good job of staying on top of our deep ball. We probably really only had one opportunity to connect on a deep ball that was into the wind, and it kind of knocked it down a little bit. That Keyshawn, made a great attempt to, but just couldn't quite get back to it. But so we kind of talked at halftime that you're going to have to throw underneath. You're going to have to be strong runners. And, obviously he hit that slant, I believe it was in the early fourth quarter, right? That, he made a nice, a challenging catch because he's running in full speed and that ball's kind of right at his waist. And, that's a difficult catch because you kind of don't know, should I be hands up, hands down? He handled it really well and then was a strong runner through it. And, kind of figured out, navigated where he needed to get, ran away. And, when you get one reception for 70 yards, it helps you get to where you need to go. But again, it's a testament to his work, and it's great to have all those guys, do their part throughout the course of the week. And again, like we've talked about with Keyshawn and Nakeem and Poke and Cephas, and then, you can bring Flory out on the field, and the ability that our tight ends have shown to be receiving threats. And, X had a couple catches and distributing the ball to a lot of different people. It's kind of one of those deals where, who are you going to take away? How are you going to roll coverage? And if you roll right, we're going to throw left. You're going to roll left, we're going to throw right. And feel equally, there's no weak hand, so to speak, which is, again, a good position to be in. And, a testament to the kids working and developing and the staff going out and recruiting good kids so that we can have this competitive depth and have a plethora of people to distribute the football to.
Let's move things over to Jimmy Oswald from the Kent Stater.
Yeah, Coach, now that I got a chance to look at it, Dustin had those 2 interceptions, but, bounced back over 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, that run at the end in overtime. Kind of what'd you see from him and how he bounced back and everything?
Yeah, the first one's on me. It's not a great play design. It was a great play by their defensive end. So I'll wear that. And I feel bad because, shoot, I feel like at least once a year I say that, and there's a bad one that's on me because I think there's something great that's on the board. And, the game's not playing on the board with a dry erase marker, obviously. So need to be better for him on that. But again, like it just his overall performance, right? It's indicative of who we know him to be, that even though there's a little bit of adversity early on, he is just so flatline, never too high, never too low. And he comes off. We talked about, hey, what'd you see? Why'd we do what we did? And okay, let's learn from it. Let's go forward. And he settles into the game and, makes big time play after big time play after big time play, really, really efficient, distributing the football. And then obviously what he brings to the game with his legs is an element that you have to prepare for as well. And then, again, when we get down to crunch time there, lesson that I learned very early on as we saw in that game, right? Like, it's not about X's and O's in the scheme. It's about your Jimmys and your Joes. So, hey, in that case, let's put the ball in his hands and make a good decision. And I don't think, shoot, all 11 guys could have been in that hole. And I think he would have found a way to get in there and score that thing. So, it's a great play by him and well blocked up front.
You touched on it earlier a little bit. The team went down, they went down there, kind of got towards the goal line, and then you guys made a stop, kind of something you guys have been doing all year, that kind of bend not break. Kind of talk about that and how your defense stepped up there.
Yeah, again, as college football's evolved, it's about getting stops, it's about getting off the field. We had timely stops, in the open field to open that second half to where, we were able to get 2 punts there that we flipped around and got 2 scores, was kind of made the game a 2-possession game where it was for the majority of the second half, which is huge. We were able to generate 2 turnovers, Montre's big pick and Mandela's big pick, that again, kind of negate the 2 interceptions that we have. So that's a wash and really no advantage one way or the other. And then again, I can't say enough about the red zone stops. You're going to concede yards, which the way the game is played now and the way that the game is officiated. So, you look around college football, it's not just at our level. It's not just in, our conference. It's all over the place. That's the beauty of these noon games. You can actually go home and be a little bit of a fan and watch other people sweat it out. Right. And like the scores are, if you're holding people under 30 points now, in today's college football, like, you're doing a heck of a job. A heck of a job with the way that these offensive guys scheme things up and do different things. It's a pain in the butt now, so it's a great job by, our defensive staff. It's a great job by our kids playing with confidence, playing with conviction, and, playing together as one.
Jimmy, any final questions for Coach before we flip things over to Saturday's game?
Nope, I'm all good.
Well, Coach, you kind of, like you said, you've alluded to it before, but obviously this is a rematch of something just a few weeks ago, and obviously the rematch of the 2012 MAC championship game. Just kind of your initial thoughts on this great opportunity for you and your program.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess before we jump into that, Dan and Tom, Rob, do you guys have any questions before we turn the page? I don't want to cut you guys short on last week's game.
Yeah, Coach, I was just going to ask you quick about, could you talk about just overcoming the overall adversity on both sides of the ball early? I mean, your defense kept you in it when Miami could have really, had a bigger advantage than they did. And then what's it say about Dustin and the offense that you can overcome those early problems and go on to have the day that they had?
Yeah, I mean, Rob, I really point to, we talked about it Thursday as a team. There's 14 young men that are a part of the roster right now that were here in our very first team meeting in January 2018. And you kind of go through that list of who those young men are. You're talking about your Sam Allens, your Dustin Crumbs, your Mandela Lawrence Burks, your Zay West, and on and on and on. These guys that are the pillars of our program and that bought in from day one and that are just great young men of character. And we're talking a lot today about obviously culture and character and resiliency. You guys have heard me say those words a bunch because in these championship moments, to me, you win them with character. There's going to be adversity through the course of the game. It's not going to be pretty. We can win some games, and we've won some games, over the course of our time here together where, character one way or the other, like we got great young men, but the character and the resolve of our team wasn't tested. Well, in last week in that Eastern Division Championship moment, it was tested, and our kids responded because they got great character and they're led by that core group. They're led by our Golden Standard guys. And again, we're gonna have to lean on the character of our team this week in this championship moment, because when it comes to winning these championships, it's all about the character of your club. It's all about your culture and what happens when you test it, what happens when adversity hits, because that's when your culture is truly tested, right? And so for us, we lean into those core beliefs. And when you go back and you watch the tape, that's what I told the team yesterday. It was just great to see the character, the resolve, and the culture that we've established, that they've worked so hard to create and protect and sustain day in and day out. It just resonated in everything that they did, which was great to see.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
Coach, just a quick one. Do you think that by you taking all the underneath routes that you did, that forced their safeties out a little bit? So then when those big runs broke, that the safeties were maybe a step or two a little bit further out than what they normally would have been under normal situations?
Yeah, I think it all, played together really, really well. There was great balance to it, right? I think we had 330 passing or something like that and 300 yards rushing. So there was great balance in it. And, what they do schematically is very, very sound. And they force you to be patient. They force you to go the long way, like we talked about. I mean, besides those explosive runs, a lot of our scoring drives were, methodical, like we talked about, leading into it with them being the number one defense, limiting those explosive plays. And they did for the most part. But maybe it was ultimately those, Tom, the underneath throws as the play count got up, culmination of a lot of different factors. We were able to crease some of those runs, and kind of establish a little bit of control, that we lost at the end of regulation there, but our kids bowed up and made plays when we needed to. But I think it all, really kind of complemented each other well.
And just one last thing, they're unsportsmanlike in overtime. For me, and you talked about Leach and Hackett, they were beating on those guys so hard during the game that looked like a frustration penalty on their part when that helmet came flying out. And I think that did the film kind of make it look the same way, because I think that's a combination of Leach and Hackett just beating on those DNs and outside linebackers all day.
Yeah, you'd have to ask him why that occurred the way that it did, right? But it just, from my side, my vantage point, we were able to execute our plan to win. And I think anytime that you can, run the football consistently, that is, it can get a little frustrating, right, for the guys on the other side. So I guess turning the page now, obviously getting to NIU, as we alluded to, Dan, second time with them here, in just over a month, or I guess just under a month, whatever the date was, we played them in November. Very, very talented team, very, very well coached, very sound up front, very dominant in the rushing attack. There's a lot of, you look at the tape, and we talked about this the first time that we played, the way that Coach Hammock has constructed, that program and what he's established, where their identity is going to be. There's a lot of mirror images in it. They love to run the ball. They live in the vertical passing game off of that. And obviously the last time we played, their quarterback had a heck of a day. Their slot receiver, Rudolph, had a heck of a day. So we're going to have our hands full again, because they are very balanced with their attack. They have a ton of weapons. They're sound up front. They run the ball really, really well. So you got to equate numbers there. And then they have playmakers, that are going to stress you down range. Again, defensively, their front six is the strength of what they do. They have a very active D line that, we had our hands full with last time. Their linebackers run extremely well. Their back end is long and active, and they take great pride in special teams. They have a unique plan each week when it comes to teams. They stress teams out a different way. They call it aggressive. It's going to be a great 4-quarter fight. It's going to be one of those deals where, again, we got to bring our character. We got to bring our resolve. We got to bring our A game. We got to play our best ball. And what more could you ask for in these championship moments than to go up there and earn the right to call yourself a champion and be one of 10 teams in the country that gets to say that at the end of this weekend?
Well, let's do our whip around of questions, starting with Alan. Any questions about Saturday's matchup?
Yeah, Coach often said that it's hard to beat a team twice in a year. What are your thoughts on that? And then based on your situation as being the one that won the first game, what do you kind of carry out of that and into this one?
Yeah, I don't take too much into the first statement. I think both teams are going to be more than eager, more than excited with all that's on the line, with this one. I think there's a lot that we can learn from the first matchup, and the lessons that we can take from it that we need to apply. Obviously, we got to do a great job controlling the running game, and then we got to do a great job controlling Rudolph, and the other weapons that they have around him. Obviously we saw with the explosive plays that they were able to generate, the stress that put on, the defense. We got to do a great job with that. We got to do a great job executing our offensive plan and adjusting to what they're going to throw at us. They were one of those teams in that kind of stretch of the season where they came out in something completely different than what we had seen or what we prepared for. So we kind of got off to a slow start because of that change. So we got to be able to adapt and adjust. And so as we prepare, we got to prepare for, multiple fronts, different things, but yet not chase too many ghosts, so that our kids have confidence in the plan as we go forward. And then within special teams, we got to get back to where special teams is a competitive advantage for us. That's kind of the one thing that we didn't touch on from last Saturday. We played well defensively. We played well offensively. It wasn't one of our better performances when it comes to special teams. And again, they got Rudolph as a returner now. He's their kick returner. He's their punt returner, so that's going to put some stress on us where we got to be at our best. And, we got to get the opportunities that when we go out there to get points, we got to go put points on the board with our field goal team. So we got to have a better effort there as well. Excuse me.
You mentioned Rudolph, just some crazy numbers from that last game from a lot of people, but he had 138 yards after catch.
Yep.
That's incredible. What do you do? Obviously that can't happen again on Saturday. What do you do to prevent that?
Yeah, we got to limit his touches, and we got to make sure that we got people around him that are giving him the attention that he's warranted, right? We knew going into it last time, obviously how impressive their run game is, and it's still very, very impressive. Again, I think they're 5th or 6th in the country here at the end of the season. That's who they are. They're dominant in the run game. And again, that poses the tough problem in normal downs, when it's mixed downs that, you got to sell it to stop the run. And that means you're equating numbers to the box, and they use heavy people to do that with multiple tight ends, multiple offensive linemen, so that you got to bring people down into the box to equate the gaps that are there. And that's going to create one-on-one matchups on the edge. So it's a lot, the same challenge that we just saw with the talented wide receivers of Sorensen and Hippenhammer from a week ago, to where they're going to have some plays. They're going to generate some things, but we got to make sure that we get enough stops, get off the field in a timely manner, so that we don't put a ton of stress in any one phase of the game.
Again, just kind of looking to this game and looking back last time you played, and we talked about the experience factor. It's really astounding how many young guys these guys got to be as good as they are. And I'm sure they kind of can play free because they don't know any better, but at the same time, talk about the fact that you guys are as experienced as you are and how that might benefit you in a game like this.
Yeah, man, I think with how well they're playing, with how youthful they are, really speaks to, the job that Coach Hammock and his staff has done. He's gotten them prepared to play at a very, very high level, very early in their careers. And I know that this Saturday is going to be no different. It's going to be interesting to where they're young and we're old, but there's not a whole lot of guys that are going to step in between those white lines on a very big stage that have never been there before. And I think for a lot of them, it's going to be that competitive maturity, the emotional maturity of who can step in between those white lines because they prepared the right way and can handle this moment the way that they've handled the rest of the year, that they don't try to do too much just because it's the MAC championship game, right? They know and understand that if you go about your business the right way, and like we just talked about with X and a bunch of these other guys who have made a bunch of plays throughout their career, they've done that because they treat practice like a game. They're tied and in tune to the plan. Their attention to detail is right. And the only difference happens to be that on Saturday, a bunch of other people get to watch them go about their business, but they go about their business on Saturday the same way they go about their business in a Tuesday practice. So we'll see. We'll see who handles it the right way, and who can understand that, hey, those are NFL numbers out there on the field, and you got to go find those little tick marks. Those are the college numbers and the little nuances of the game like that, right? Like it's going to be fun.
Was Adam able to play field goal as he did against Akron?
Say that again.
Was Adam able to play on field goal like he did against Akron last week?
Yeah, he did. Yep.
Okay. He's just kind of a week to week still type of thing.
He really is. It's kind of how, as the preparation goes, that kind of got to see what he's capable and able to do week to week, day to day.
Okay. I mean, obviously he's a really good player. Are you at the point now though, where you guys are playing so well up front that you kind of just want to ride with who you got?
I mean, we've been playing so many different combinations up there, and the luxury of the guys that we have, it's it's truly next man up, and let's roll and let's go.
I'm good. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Alan.
Let's move things along to Jack Burney from TV2.
Yeah, Coach, looking back on last game against Northern Illinois, it was a very balanced attack for you guys on offense. I believe you had 350 passing yards and about 300 rushing yards. Just talk about how important balance is going to be in Saturday's game.
Yeah, I mean, we want to find a way to move the ball, and again, against a good front, against talented people, they're going to give us multiple looks. And, we got to have all of our guys step up and be ready to play, just like we talked about with the Miami of Ohio game. And, the week prior, they obviously were rush dominant. We knew that we had to be more balanced because they had great scheme. They had kids that played really, really hard. It's the same smell here, guys. They have really sound scheme. They got great players that have tremendous pride in their program. And, we know that we're not just going to probably be able to lean in one direction, one way or the other. We're going to need our full, the full plethora of all of our ways that we can attack to be clicking on all cylinders so that we can hopefully, move the ball a little bit against a really talented team.
Obviously, last time out, we talked about Trayvon Rudolph, but their quarterback, Rocky Lombardi, we obviously know he played at Michigan State. He threw for over 500 yards last game. Just what do you think you need to do to limit his production offensively?
Ask the officials if we can play with 12 guys, and maybe they'll allow us to do that, so we can equate those numbers in the run game and the pass game. And, I'll probably get off with you guys here and call the commissioner and see if we can get that done.
Last one for me. Just are there any keys that you think are particularly important on Saturday and that you need to get right this week in practice in order to give yourselves the best chance to win the MAC championship?
I think the biggest thing, guys, is to refocus. It was a great moment on Saturday, and there's a lot of great things that are going on in the community, and there's a lot of people who are going to be there on Saturday, and people are very, very jubilant about the opportunity, everything that's going on. But at the end of the day, the job's not done. We've been talking about the fight all year, and that fight was to earn the right to go to Detroit, create this prize fight opportunity, and then hopefully if we earn the right, call ourselves champions. So the biggest thing is that it's great that everyone in the community is saying all these great things, and there's all this positive pub and all these, amazing things are happening. But I think the team that can really focus in and refocus, this week to keep the main thing, and go about their process at a really, really high level, because that process is what's led both teams to this moment. Just speaking for our ball club, like that's the biggest thing for me, is that we got to make sure that we do a great job, refocusing and working our process this week at a championship level, because this is the championship moment that we've been working so hard for.
Let's kick it over to Jimmy Oswald from the Kent Stater from final questions here for Coach.
Yeah, Coach. We talked about Rudolph, obviously, and then their number 2 receiver got hurt during the Kent game. But Cole Tucker, who's their now their number 2, been doing really well. Kind of talk about making sure he doesn't hurt you when you're turning all your attention to Rudolph, or is it kind of a thing of, if we can stop Rudolph, we'll take a couple hits from Tucker?
Yeah, I mean, again, right? Like it's just the challenges that really, really good teams presents, right? And it's kind of like what we just talked about with our dynamic skill, right? And hopefully Coach Hammock's having as many sleepless nights as I'm having because of the weapons that we have and the weapons that he has. It's why he's probably going to call the commissioner and ask that he can play with 13 guys if they allow me to play with 12 guys, right? I mean, we got to do a great job limiting these guys. And we know that there's going to be one-on-one matchups that are created. And ultimately, it's a deal where we got to play with great eyes. We got to have great communication. We got to have great technique and great fundamentals, because they're great players. And it's one of those deals where the huge plays, the yards after contact happen because of a breakdown in fundamentals or a breakdown in a controllable. And we have to limit those controllables. We know that they're going to get some production, again, because of the way that college football is and the talent that they have. But we got to make sure that we do everything in our power to limit those really, really explosive, game-changing plays, no matter who it is, right? Whether it's Rudolph, it's Tucker, it's Ducker, it's Brown, it's Whaley if he's back up healthy. It's one of their, tight ends. They got 3 dynamic tight ends. They got Fabian McRae, who doesn't have a whole lot of stats, but he's a dynamic athlete as well. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on, right? Like it's one of those deals where, again, like we got to control the controllables. The biggest piece of that is our alignment, our communication, our eye discipline, our fundamentals. I know that stuff's really, really boring to talk about, guys, but if we can do those simple things at a really high level, I think we'll have a chance to have a little bit of success.
Last one for me. I asked you last time after you guys beat Akron, how do you?
Oh, don't say that A word, Jimmy.
I'm sorry.
Come on, man.
After you guys beat that school down the road
Thank
2
you.
weeks ago, you guys, I asked you about how do you kind of, after a huge win like that, how do you guys kind of, calm yourselves down? You said, I don't want to calm them down. I want that energy. Is that kind of a similar vibe going into the championship game this week? Is that kind of like, let's go? And, how's the locker room feeling going into this new week, championship week?
They're awesome. I mean, there's an infectious energy, it's great positivity. And it's just a matter of, I don't want to ratchet down the energy. I don't want to racket down the excitement. I just want to focus it in a compelled way. So it becomes a compelled, focused energy source, because when it's all aligned together, man, great things can happen. So I don't want to diminish their joy to go play, the joy to go prepare. I mean, it's fun, guys. Like this, I'm the luckiest guy in the world to lead these guys with the fun that they have and the joy that they have. I don't want to take any of that away from them. Not ever.
We'll wrap things up with Rob and Tom. We got just a couple minutes left in our Zoom window here. So Rob, any final questions here for Coach?
Yeah, Coach, just quick one, and this will be a little bit different, but I know you don't have anything to do with the history. The kids don't know the history, but do you do anything different this week as far as maybe bring in an ex-player or somebody, this from 72, or how rare it's been, your opportunity this week? They've only won 1 conference championship in the history of the school in 75 years, and it was 49 years ago. Do you go to that at all, and do you do anything different this week?
We don't do anything different. Not going to have anyone else come in that hasn't talked to our team or been in front of our team, in the past. Our kids are very much aware of the legacy that they've created and all the firsts that they've established, especially, again, the guys who have been here since the very, very beginning. We've leaned into that since day one. We've never shied away from those conversations, particularly, on these calls. Everyone else is talking about it. So, I might as well have a voice in it as well. We're going to do some things within our uniform to honor the 72 team, which is the only one that has won it, so far. So it'll be a nice little tip of the cap to them. But ultimately, when that ball's placed on the tee and we're in between those white lines, the history doesn't matter. What's going on in the future doesn't matter. And we got to live in the present, one play at a time, and go play our brand of football to the level that we're capable of. And I do believe that will be enough because of how special our young men are.
Tom, any final thoughts?
I'm going to go back to X's and O's, Coach. You did such a great job of getting Gabbert off his mark, not getting his feet set early on, because we know what kind of receivers he had. You've been so aggressive defensively the last couple of weeks. Just stay with that that mantra here and try and get Lombardo off his mark, knowing that it's a little bit tougher to throw when he's not on his mark?
Yeah, I think that's hard for any quarterback, right? And that's why they're so aggressive defensively on their side to get a quarterback off his spot. But I mean, at the end of the day, I've been saying it for a long time around here. There's no risk it, no biscuit. So we're gonna play it our way. We're gonna do it our way, and we're gonna dance with the girl that brought us to the ball. And that's been being default aggressive, and that'll continue to be the case. Again, that's probably the stubborn Irishman in me, but that's the way we're gonna roll.
Well, thank you guys. If you need a copy of this Zoom, just reach out to me. We will also have a Mac Zoom call on Thursday in advance of Saturday's game. If you need that information, contact me as well. If you need help credentialing yourself for Saturday's game, I'm your guy. Coach, thank you as always for a few moments of your time. We'll see you Thursday, and then obviously best of luck on Saturday.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate y'all. Go Flashes.